Hi, everybody. I'm Keith Flippin, and I'm the owner of The Actor's Place, where for over 25 years I have taught film, television, and voiceover actors how to do what they do professionally. I've used those same lessons from acting to coach corporate executives in presentation and speech skills. So what I wanted to share with you today is part of what I'm calling the Actor Education series. This whole video is about how the casting process works for major feature film and television. Now, a lot of actors tend to place themselves at the heart of the casting process. They believe that if they turn in the best performance, they'll book the job, and that's not the case. There are a number of factors that will influence the decisions of the director, producer, and casting director when it comes to filling a role. This process and the way it's laid out is a little convoluted. It can be hard to understand, so that's why I wanted to share this video with you. So let's get started about how the casting process works for major film and television projects, mostly. Now, I say mostly because this isn't relevant to every market. There are places where this model does not apply. To some degree, it's the markets where actors will audition directly for the casting director and without agency representation. For film and television projects that are independent films or low budget or ultra low budget films, sometimes that's the case as well. But let's dig into the work where most of us want to be working, and that's major network film and television projects, studio projects. So it starts with an idea in some concrete form. Now, we all have friends who work at X location that think their coworkers are funny, and the customers are just a little kooky, and boy, I have a great idea. I should sell my story. Nobody buys an idea. Nobody wants an idea. What they want is something more concrete. They want something that has a story arc and a variety of characters where the chemistry is palpable. And a lot of that right now is coming from IP, intellectual property, and that's what's driving film and television production right now. And the reason for that is because if an audience is already familiar with a piece of intellectual property, it's a much easier sell to an audience to get them to tune in. You don't have to teach them from scratch what a project's about. So IP, a piece of intellectual property, like a completed screenplay, a book, podcast, a true news story, all of these things are appealing because they present an opportunity to take an existing story and turn it into something that will make money. And a producer is a person with money who wants to see this project made. And they do it with one expectation, and it's here underlined, in order to see a return on that investment. People love to make movies because those movies feel important and relevant, and they feel like something that they want to share or it speaks to them. But it's always done with an eye on making money and not losing money. So that's why they do it. And this one simple idea drives a lot of the decision making when it comes to not only how the movie is produced, but also sometimes who's cast. Let's keep going. So an idea, when it's being worked on to bring in the core creative team and other investors, is being in development. If you go to IMDb and find any major television actor, you'll see that they've got the projects they've completed. You've got some that are in pre-production, some that are in production, and then you have this other section where it says in development. And it means that they've agreed to participate if the project goes through. And so the development process is where we will begin. And it starts with the producer, someone who found the story, someone who has faith in the story, someone who thinks they can make some money off of the story. And we're going to call this producer Teven Peelberg. You get me. And the producer can't make the movie by themselves. They need somebody who knows how to tell that story in pictures, to lay out the narrative, to make sure that the through line can be followed and that the audience can understand what's going on. And that person who's going to tell that story visually is going to be a director. And ideally, if you've got a piece of IP where you're investing money, the director is someone with a track record whose sensibilities work well with the story's, say, genre. Maybe it's sci-fi, or maybe it's a political drama, or a mystery. Someone who's worked in a period before. You can imagine what the aesthetic of the 1950s is, and someone who might be able to have some fun with that style versus a futuristic piece, or someone from the 1800s. It may be a director that has a sense of aesthetic that works with the script. If you think Baz Luhrmann and Moulin Rouge or any of his other films, they're very colorful, they're very bright, they're very dynamic, and someone might want that feel, so they will seek out a director that has a track record for doing that. It also might be an ominous dystopian story. You could look for any of the directors of any of the Hunger Games movies, I suppose. Also, the performance style. Is this film going to be told in intimate close-ups with actors that have a good control over and a way of communicating vulnerability and inner monologue? Or is it going to be shot Steadicam with a camera that's always in motion with a lot of physical action? That's a lot more like stage choreography. You want to make sure that your director has a track record with at least some of these because, well, they're going to make you money. They're going to increase the odds, let's say, that the film will be a success, and they won't be learning how to direct a film in the style or of the aesthetic that you're seeking to produce. They don't have to learn to do it on set. They're coming with some tools intact, so it saves time, and time is money. So we're going to say the director this time is George Rukas. Again, don't blame me. George Rukas, and they start talking about what the movie can be and how it can be visualized. And George says, you know what, I need somebody I can work with who can operate the camera and help me with things like lighting and camera movement and the right choice of lens for the shot. Someone who speaks my aesthetic language, says George, and that doesn't need to translate that into what they understand. Preferably someone I've worked with before. Also someone that understands the medium, whether I'm shooting on film or digital or audio, and the style, if there's a style of filming. Is it single camera, multi-camera? Is it documentary, music video? And in this case, let's just say that Teven and George hire Vilmos Zsigmond, because Vilmos was a genius, and people loved working with Vilmos. I had the opportunity once. Very nice guy. So this is your core creative team, all right? And they are attached to the project. And it helps because Teven doesn't have all the money. Teven has some of the money to get the ball rolling. But if you want to make the film that you really visualize, you need to bring more people in with more investment. And to do that, you need to inspire confidence in them. And if you've got a solid director like George here, and a great cinematographer like Vilmos here, and a producer like Teven, wow, that's really going to draw some top-notch talent to the project, right? So that's what you're looking for. This is a sales pitch. You're putting together a team is a sales pitch. Now let's say I've got a movie I want to pitch you. I'm going to call it Ed and Jean Find a Box. You're going to love this. Set in the 1950s, two buddies, they go up into the attic in one of their grandfather's house, and they find a box. And they open it up, and there's a portal in the box that whisks them away to the future, to 2024. Oh yeah. And they start to have trouble grappling with the future. You know, things like iPhones and artificial intelligence and electric cars. Oh, where's the gas tank? It's a really bad joke. Roll with me. And eventually what they discover is they find their daughters, and their daughters are very unhappy. They set about trying to fix what's wrong with their daughters' lives. They've learned that they themselves turned out to be, well, not great fathers. And they can't fix it, and they end up having to go back in time and fix themselves. That's the story arc. What do you say? Okay, I mean, I guess. I got George Rukas directing. I got Vilmos Zsigmond. Yeah, no, that's great, but I still can't see the story in my head. You need one more group of people attached to the film. You need the people that you can see the chemistry of. So if I said that the leads in this film, and I know they're a little, long in the tooth for the roles, well, let's say it's Ed Helms and Steve Carell. Well, immediately, two buddies, Ed Helms, Steve Carell, future, past, fighting to save their daughters' lives and their marriages. And oh, yeah, I can see that chemistry now. It helps to bring in other investors if they can more clearly visualize the project. And so in this case, for whatever Gorge and Teven are making, they're going to bring in, I guess, J-Lo and Tom Cruise. So now you've got people invested, not only in the story, but with money, right? And the funding is secured, and the workable script is put together, and the key players are committed. And so you move into a part of production called pre-production. And that is when people start putting things into place to actually begin planning the shooting of the film. And it involves things like securing locations and equipment, and hiring crew, and finalizing that script. Because once you bring people on board, you kind of have to tweak some things so it fits them and not maybe the person that the writer intended it to be played by. And also, in order to get someone on board, sometimes you got to beef up a role a little bit, and that would be the supporting players. You need a good, not a lead, but a supporting role that really helps the lead characters get to where they need to be. Sometimes to get the person you want, you might have to beef that role up a little bit. So the script does need to be finalized. You work out your budget and you hire your actors. Now, this is where the casting process comes in. That's what it is, hiring the actors. And because the film is typically starting, and by starting that pre-production process, I mean is starting in one of the two major markets, LA or New York, and people that live in those markets, they're also going to seek out the major supporting roles in those markets. A, because those people have a track record. They're going to get you in and get you out. They're going to come prepared to the job. They may be people that you've enjoyed working with or wanted to work with for some time. But those major supporting roles also bring their names to the film, which means they're going to help put asses in seats. And the people that know those are going to be the LA and New York casting directors. And those people have a previous working relationship usually with the director and understand what the director likes and can go access those supporting actors in LA and New York. And they also have a style that can help match with the director's intentions. And one of the books I highly recommend actors get a hold of is something called the Encyclopedia of Casting Directors. It's out of print. You can find it on Amazon, paperback. It's not very expensive. But what it does is it is a series of interviews, chapters about different major casting directors in the industry and how each of them sees talent, what they look for in auditions. Some casting directors love actors that are very internal, right? They keep it all undercover. They're very authentic, very vulnerable, very grounded, very real, very small in their choices. Debbie Zane would be one of those people. Other casting directors love actors when they come in and they make bold choices. They make risky choices. They live on the edge in their acting, right? And that would be a casting director you might use for, say, a David Lynch film. The director wants a casting director that can align with the needs of the film, not only in the kind of actors that they understand and the aesthetic that the casting director has when they look for talent, but also because the director needs a physical type sometimes. So if you think of, let's say I'm casting a film set in Jamestown, where everybody's got to be starving. Well, I need a casting director that knows a pool of really talented, emaciated actors. Very, very, very gaunt. Or maybe the casting director needs to have a real access to a real pool of diverse talent for a different world. So the LA casting director, let's say, was Debbie Zane, or is Debbie Zane for Teven and Gorge's production here. And they're going to cast, Debbie's going to cast the major and supporting roles. But not all films are made in LA and New York. A lot of films are made in places not like LA and New York. They're made in Atlanta, and they're made in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they're made in Charleston, South Carolina, and they're made in Dallas, Texas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Debbie Zane doesn't know any actors there. doesn't know what the talent pool is like there. So they need somebody on the ground in the region, in the local where they're shooting. And so that's going to be a regional casting director or local casting director. And in this case, Lisa Mae Fincannon is who I've put up on the screen. She's been a casting director in the Southeast for a very, very long time. She's an old friend of mine, and she cast me in some of the earliest projects that I worked. So Lisa Mae will find the roles that need to be cast nearby. Why nearby? Because it's cheaper. So I don't have to fly somebody in. I don't have to pay extra money for people to travel in from LA and New York. And I don't have to necessarily negotiate the rates that an LA or New York actor would need to make the trip to the production location. Instead, I can find actors that are in the region or local. Region is a 500-mile radius from the production location, and local is within let's say, this is random, but let's say a 50-mile drive. You can get there in the morning, shoot your thing, and then get home. So that's who the regional casting director is going to find. So the casting directors put together a breakdown of all of the roles that are available. They're going to have the role name. There's going to be a description of the role, the character's physicality, oftentimes the character's personality. It'll list the number of scenes and lines that the character has to deliver. And they're going to put all of this together, and they're going to send it out. Lead casting is going to send it to regional, and regional is going to send it out to all of the agents in the market where the film is being produced. That can be as many as 100 agents. They want to find the right talent for this. So they're going to reach out wide and find everybody in every regional market that they can. That's within that 500-mile radius usually. And so, in this case, this is Sylvia Hudson. She's a casting director in Virginia. And she's going to go to her talent list. I mean, she's going to find all of the names of the people that are right for this role. Oh, this role I've got 10 people. I can submit these 10 people. Oh, this role I got 10 people easy that could do this one. And puts together an exhaustive list of all of the potential options that she has on her roster for those roles. And that list goes all the way to the regional casting director, where Lisa Mae will look over that list. And we'll say, okay, I got 10 actors here for this role. I know that person. I've seen that person's work. They're good. This person I've heard of. I hear they're good. I've watched that person audition before, but these 7 people, I don't know. So they're no's. I don't want to see them. And that's how it's going to go. I'm going to go through each. She's going to go through each role. She's going to eliminate the I don't knows and bring in the ones that are going to probably turn in an audition that's going to be solid. And so regional casting sends the audition requests back to the agent. Not all of them. So that means that if you're represented by an agent, you could be submitted in that first round and just never hear that you have an audition because casting has said, no, not right now. And there are a number of reasons for that, but that's another video. So the agent reaches out to you, the talent. You've received a request, usually through a portal like Actors Access or Casting Networks. I apologize. And you have to respond to that and say, yes, I am willing to take this audition on and turn it in by the time it is due. And that's where your work begins. Now, there are some things you should do when you get your casting notice. You should review the submission information thoroughly so that you understand the expectation and the needs of the audition. Also, so you understand all of the players involved, because it will include who the director is, who the producer is, where it is shooting, when it is shooting. It'll include information about your role. All of that will be in the email that you receive. Then you should check to see if you need to sign an NDA. If you think you're auditioning for a Marvel project or a Star Wars project without signing an NDA before they send you the script, you're crazy. You've got to sign that because what they're sending you is sensitive material. And even when they send it to you, the names will be changed. And it will be vague and something like the actual scene without being the actual scene. It's a proxy scene for what you would ultimately end up doing in the film. But sign the NDA and get it back quick so you can get those sides in your hand. And the sides are your pages of the script that you need to use in your audition. And you should begin memorizing your lines as soon as you get it. Memorize them, however, without any specific interpretation. And carry the scene around in your imagination through the day and visualize it. Imagine what's happening. Put yourself in the position of the character. See what's going on. See if you can, in your head, live through it a little bit. Then, don't lock in, as I said, any single interpretation, and immediately arrange for a reader to read with you for the audition. People value their time. So as soon as you reach out to them, ask them when they can do it or give them your specific audition time. I need you for 7 p.m. on Sunday night at my place, or I need you digitally to appear on an iPhone or an iPad next to my camera while I'm auditioning at 7 p.m. Sunday, and find someone who will commit to that. Okay? Because you need to make sure you plan for when you'll tape and hold yourself to that schedule. And you want to try and turn it in early. Let's talk about why. So if I get an audition request on Thursday and it's due on Monday at 10 a.m., it's great. It gives me plenty of time to prepare. But all of those auditions that come in on Monday at 10 a.m., it's going to be a giant rush of material that the casting director has to look at. However, let's say casting director wakes up on Saturday morning, sitting down with a cup of coffee, doesn't like to bring work home, but thinks, there's this one role in this project I'm really excited to see. It was a lot of fun. I wonder who's turned something in yet. And maybe they sit there with their cup of coffee on the back porch looking out at the river or whatever. They flip open the laptop and they just start watching the early auditions. They're going to give those frequently a full view and 100% of their attention because it's early. And they're not under any specific duress. It could happen. I'm not saying it does or will 100% of the time. But what you're doing is you're presenting the opportunity to review your materials earlier under a more relaxed set of circumstances. On Monday at noon, do you know what's going to happen? Either they or an assistant are going to go through and watch the first 10 seconds of what you do and quickly start weeding out. Yes, okay, I believe this, and put that in the mix with the shorts on the shorter list. No, that's not the role. No, I don't like that interpretation. No, he just doesn't get the scene. Boom, 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 boom. You're not even going to get your full audition looked at sometimes. So if you turn it in early, there is a chance that it benefits you. That's all I'm saying. And if you're taping with a reader in person, they're in the space with you, consider running through the scene off camera before taping. In other words, not treating it like an audition. Treat it like a scene. Go sit down at your dining room table if it happens at a table. Go outside. Go walk down the hallway if it's a walk and talk scene, and run the scene like you're in the scene together. Act with your reader so that when you come back to taping your audition and you put them right next to your lens, a lot of the remnants of what you did when you ran the scene as a scene will enter the space with you. It helps you with visualization and feel and pace, and it allows you to connect with your reader before you audition so that when you step in here, it'll still kind of feel like a scene. All of those are good ways to prepare for your self-tape. And then you're going to lay it down. You're going to follow the instructions to the letter, including file naming. Please get the file naming right, because they can put them in a pool and it's sorted by file name. And if you don't name them right, sometimes they won't see them. And you're going to upload it to Actors Access or casting networks. And then your agent, guess what they're going to do? They're going to review the auditions. And if yours is not up to snuff, it's not going to be sent in. And you may or may not hear about that. Why wouldn't it be up to snuff? Well, maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you don't have the specifics checked. Maybe you would not represent well your agent. You see, your agent has a reputation to protect with casting. And that reputation is, I've got great actors on my team. People that are solid, people that have their stuff together, people that are going to turn in a read that makes you imagine them in the actual scene. And if you've got too much stuff going on, you're fumbling with the script, you lose your place too many times, the scene just isn't feeling like a scene, then your agent may say, not ready yet, and not pass it on. This does happen. And those self-taped auditions will go to regional casting. Now, regional casting is going to get 3, roughly, submissions from each agent for each role. 100 agents. That's up to 300 auditions. And they cannot watch them all. Sometimes they'll do the 5-second, 10-second rule. Yep, no, yep, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, yep, no. They can do it that way. But if you got 10 roles in a single episode that you got to fill, that's 3,000 auditions you've got to do that with. So frequently, casting directors will use a shorthand. They'll choose a handful. By a handful, I mean maybe 30. They'll look at 30 initially, actors that are, a third of them maybe, local to the production. So I don't have to pay you any travel. You're within that day's drive, right? You can get there in an hour, shoot, and then go home. I don't have to pay you for travel or per diem or lodging. Maybe some of the others are actors they know are solid and always turn in a good audition. And when they look at it, they go, yeah, they got a good grasp of the character. It's different than other people's. Yeah, this is somebody I would share. And then the other 10 may be those people that they've seen audition before and thought, yeah, but this role's not right for them. But this one feels like it might be. And so that's the mix that they're going to put together. From the 300 auditions, it'll end up being a group of about 30 to maybe 50 that they'll actually look at. And they'll narrow that down to, maybe 30, maybe 15. I don't know. It depends on the casting director. And the regional casting is going to send those selects to the lead casting director. And the lead casting director is going to start, going through those, saying, with the other information that comes from the conversations with the director and the producer, maybe, I need somebody that has this dynamic. I like this person. This person has some zing. Maybe there is some quality that is captured by one actor and not another. Or maybe there is a difference in all of these are great performances. This guy has no hair. This guy has hair. This person's of one ethnicity. This person's of another. I need a mix before we lock things in. And they're going to take those 30, they're going to narrow them down to about 12. All right? 12. And the casting director is going to tell regional what those top picks are, and the regional casting director is going to take those names and go to the agent and say, I need availability checks on these people. They're in the first cut, maybe the second, I guess. And I need to make sure they're still available for our shoot dates. Things are getting a little more serious here. They're not super serious, but a little more serious, and I just need to double check, make sure nobody's availability has changed, because if it is, I got to take them out of the mix. And you've got to respond honestly. But what is a conflict? Well, that's up to you. For me, a conflict is anything that is inviolable. I'm having a kidney removed. I am supposed to appear in court to defend someone I love, and their life depends on it. Those are inviolable conflicts for me. It's not for me personally, and this is my choice. Vacations, people's surgery in the family, best friends' weddings, the funerals of friends. That's the deal I've made. Those are the choices I made. You may set your bar where you need, but when you respond, you must respond honestly, because you never want to give a producer a problem they don't already have by lying and then ending up having to fight your lie. Okay? So you respond honestly. You tell the truth. And the agent tells regional. And regional tells casting. Okay, everybody's available. And then you go about your life. It was just an availability check. It doesn't mean anything. That's all it is. Just go on and do the next audition. Nobody's offered you anything. Nobody's put you on their calendar. No, you can't sit there biting your nails and sweating and starting to dream about how you're going to spend your lottery winnings, which is basically what this still is. It's 1 in 12, sure, but still a long way to go. And a lot of things can happen, right? So Forget about it. Now go about your life and do other things. It's not worth the anxiety, and it's not worth the stewing, because that's going to make you want to call your agent. Never call your agent after a single availability check and bug them. Have you heard anything yet? Have you heard anything yet? Have you heard anything yet? They don't want those calls, and you do not want to be that pest. All right? So you go about your life. And compliment yourself. It was 300. And now it's just 12 and you're still in the mix. You should take that for the compliment of your work that it is. You are doing things right. And if in the future you doubt yourself, you can look to that and say, you know what? I got shortlisted. I'm on the list of 12. I got an availability check. It means my work passes muster. It's of the quality to be seen for that role. So I must be doing something right. Okay? And in the meantime, nothing happens, and you go about your life. But there's a conversation going on in the circles of the directors and the producers and the casting directors, because they have a budget that they can spend on casting, and they need to make some decisions. Things like, is it economically viable? Do I have to pay to travel you in, or can you work locally for just the cost of the day? That would save me about $1,000 in pay if I don't have to travel you in, minimum. Closer to like $1,200-$1,400 once I pay per diem and lodging. Yeah. Also, are you likely to fit into an ensemble or build chemistry with the lead actors? Or is there a similarity or dissimilarity that matters? Do I need you to look like somebody's brother? Once I cast that role, then I know what you need to look like. And so there's this family building sometimes that needs to happen. Or do you look too much like another actor? This bald head has gotten me into, well, I'm not going to say trouble, but it's caused confusion, because apparently, and I know some of you will understand in a different context, some people can't tell bald white guys apart. Jeff Probst, yes, from the Survivor series, mistook me for another bald white actor in a film that bald white actor and I were both in. At the opening night party, came up to me and said, "Man, I loved your work. You were great in that." And he described the scene, and I said, "Yeah, that wasn't me. That was my buddy over here." And off he went. So sometimes you don't want to confuse the audience by having people that look too much alike. Also, experience. What is your experience with lead actors? If I put you in a scene one-on-one with a lead actor and you don't have much prior experience, I may worry that you're going to freak out, not be able to hold your stuff together and get the job done. Also, with the performance style, maybe one person has a little more experience in physical comedy than you do. That could matter. And also the shooting schedule and time efficiency. And here's where that availability comes in. That could affect your hireability and time efficiency. So let's talk about COVID. In the fall of 2020 into 2021, everybody was masking on set. There was a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And what people wanted was actors that could get in, take off the mask, do the job, put the mask back on, and go back to holding, with all of the other stuff going on. So a lot of actors that were cast were actors that were solid, that could deliver. Also, let's talk about shooting. Maybe I've got you in a scene that happens at 6:30 in the evening during what's called golden hour, when that sunset, that golden sun color is beautiful about an hour before the sun sets. Well, that means I've got to get my master, my two, and my close-up in before the sun sets. I got an hour. Maybe I'm shooting multi-camera, maybe not. If you don't have sufficient experience under your belt to demonstrate that you can get in and get the job done, then I may not want to risk putting you in a scene with that kind of time constraint. I need somebody that can deliver, and consistently, so I can get all the takes I need in the can and move on. Because if I go past golden hour, I have to reschedule everybody an entire day later or days later. It's going to cost me buku money. So it's a matter of, can you get the job done in time? Also, your type. Do you fit the visual storytelling? When someone sees you in the movie, are they thinking what I want them to think? You're sitting outside the country store. I need an actor with one arm and a clouded left eye. You know, you're gonna scream what I want this town to feel like, or let's say it is a diversity issue. If you're doing, and by issue I don't mean problem, I just mean that's the concern. You've got Downton Abbey, which is going to be, let's face it, mostly white people. And then you've got, in the same period, roughly, maybe a little earlier, Bridgerton, right? Which has got this same period, but a widely diverse world. What world do you want to depict will also define how you might cast a role. All of these things come into play, and none of them have anything to do with you. You've turned in a fine audition. You made it to the short list. But there are all of these things. And so these are going to eliminate probably about 9 out of those 12 people, leaving only 3 behind. And so what's going to happen? Well, they're going to send those names back to regional, and regional's going to contact the agent. I need another availability check, another one. But this one is more serious. It means the pool's smaller. We're getting much closer. We're going to start shooting in 5 days. I just need to make sure this person is still available. We're still finalizing. We should have a decision in the next day. So you tell the truth. Again, oh my goodness, tell the truth this time. And that's going to go back up the chain all the way to the lead casting director, where they're going to make the decision. And so now's where you start planning for the possibility that you may have to travel. And you can get a little bit excited. You should probably find a place someone to take care of your dog if you've got to go. Someone who's going to look after your kids if you got to go. Is your husband going to be free? Is your wife going to be free? Is a family member going to be free? Do you need to get that car tanked up? Do you need to, whatever you need to do, pack your go bag so that when they say go, you can just grab it and get in the car. But make your plans now, because it's a little more serious. Not imminent, although it's close. And if you're 72 hours away from a scheduled shoot date, it's Monday and you're supposed to shoot Thursday, and you haven't heard anything, you know that you've got to travel in the next 2 days. You're going to have to travel Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest. You might have a fitting you got to get there for. It's okay then, if you're 72 to 48 hours out, to reach out to your agent and say, hey, look, shoot date's this date. I know we haven't heard anything. Can you just touch base with the casting director and see if they're still deciding or if I'm off the hook? I've got all these things ready to go, but it would be nice to go ahead and know if the rest of the week is mine or not. And depending on your agent's relationship with the casting director, they will or will not feel comfortable calling up saying, hey, look, just want to see, are we still deciding or what's the deal? That's the time it's okay to ask the agent, because you're really close and you know that you've been checked within that window. I have been called the day I've had to travel. You shoot tomorrow in Atlanta. Jump in the car and drive that day to get there and shoot the next day at noon. 10 hours. But that's just sometimes how it works. Sometimes it's the case because they like you, but maybe you haven't quite nailed it. And so they keep looking a little bit. But then they decide, you know what? Yeah, no, you'll be fine. We'll book you. Other times it could have something to do with the location's availability. There are all kinds of factors at play. All of this is to say that if you think it's your performance that's causing you to be cast or not cast, it's only part of the picture. And understanding how the casting process works is the best way to relieve yourself of a modicum of that anxiety and self-doubt that plagues all actors. But know that there's one thing that you have control over, and that is the quality of your self-taped auditions and the quality of your work. And good actors constantly hone their work. There's always more to learn. And if I can be of assistance in that way, there's the pitch. Please reach out to me at keith@beanactor.com. The Actors Place has been in business since 1991, and this is what we've done. And I've had students that are working guest stars and co-star work all over the country, recurring guest stars, and have even been on the deck for lead roles of their own in their own series. They haven't flown, but they got the wings, and they will when the time comes. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been informative, and I hope you've gotten something out of it. And please reach out and break a leg. Also, if this is interesting to you, What am I saying? Please click the link and subscribe. We have more videos like this on more topics that are relevant to actors and non-actors alike, because there are a lot of lessons from acting that are useful to your day-to-day lives, even as non-actors. I hope you'll join me for some of those videos. Take care. Bye-bye.